You speak too soon. That's the problem. You tell your dreams before they've taken root. You announce your plans before you've built the discipline to execute them. And that, more than fear, more than lack of money, more than bad timing, is why your vision keeps dying before it's born. Let me ask you something. Why do you feel the need to tell people what you're going to do? Why do you share your deepest goals with those who've never built anything themselves? You think you're creating accountability, but you're actually bleeding power. Every time you speak prematurely, you drain the reservoir you need to finish. The greatest achievements in history were born in silence, not announced in advance. Here's the law. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to applause. It responds to authority. It responds to repetition. It responds to emotion spoken in private, not praise spoken in public. When you announce your vision too early, you're not strengthening it. You're weakening it. You're scattering seed on hard ground where it has no chance to grow. Definiteness of purpose must be protected, guarded, kept sacred until it's strong enough to survive the cold winds of public opinion. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before the electric light was born, but he didn't run to the newspapers after every failure. He didn't explain his method to skeptics. He repeated his vision to himself over and over in the silence of his laboratory. His subconscious obeyed him, not the crowd. And when the light finally turned on, he didn't need to say a word. The darkness surrendered. The result spoke louder than any explanation ever could. But here's what happens when you speak too soon. You invite doubt. You open the door to interference. Someone asks, "Are you sure that'll work?" Another says, "That sounds risky." A third one smirks and says nothing, but you feel it. And if you're not rooted in your own belief, those seeds of doubt take hold. Your subconscious starts accepting their uncertainty instead of your faith. You begin to question what was once clear. The vision that burned bright in your mind now flickers, and eventually it dies. Andrew Carnegie understood this better than almost anyone. He once told me, "A man who cannot keep his mouth closed cannot keep his fortune." That wasn't cynicism, that was strategy. Carnegie didn't announce his acquisitions before they were sealed. He didn't explain his plans to idle company. He chose his confidants with surgical precision, revealed only what was necessary, and kept the rest locked in a mind trained by definiteness of purpose. His silence wasn't hesitation, it was design. He built his empire before he unveiled it. I watched Carnegie operate for years. I saw how he moved. When he decided to consolidate the steel industry, he didn't hold town halls. He didn't seek opinions from those who had never built an enterprise. He worked behind closed doors with men who understood power, who understood law, who understood that premature exposure kills momentum. And by the time the world knew what he'd done, it was already complete. The deal was signed. The empire was standing. There was nothing left to debate. Now here's the trap most people fall into. They think if they talk about their goals, they're more likely to achieve them. But I've observed the opposite in every successful person I've studied. The more you talk, the less you build. The more you announce, the less you finish. Why? Because when you speak your vision to others and receive their praise, your subconscious gets a hit of satisfaction. It feels like progress. But it's not. It's counterfeit. You've traded the hard work of execution for the easy reward of attention. Your subconscious cannot tell the difference between real achievement and imagined achievement when both are wrapped in emotion. So when you announce your plan and people say, "Wow, that's amazing," your mind registers that as partial fulfillment. The hunger lessens, the edge dulls. You've already tasted the applause, so why continue the hard labor? This is why so many dreams die in conversation. They were celebrated before they were built. This is where autosuggestion becomes critical. You must speak your aim aloud, but only to yourself. Stand before your mirror each morning and night. Declare your definite chief aim with emotion, as if it's already real. Feel it. Believe it. That's how you instruct your subconscious to move in your favor. But the moment you take that same aim and broadcast it to the world, you shift the power from command to performance. Now you're not obeying law. You're performing for eyes. And performance drains you. Law empowers you. I'll tell you what I've learned from studying over 500 of the most successful men in America. Every single one of them had a period of silence, a period when they worked in obscurity, a period when no one believed, no one supported, no one saw. That period wasn't accidental. It was necessary. It was the furnace in which their certainty was forged. Without that silence, without that solitude, they would have crumbled under the weight of public opinion. Henry Ford was ridiculed when he envisioned a motor car for the common man. The experts of his day called it impossible. Bankers refused him, investors mocked him, engineers told him the design wouldn't work, so he stopped explaining. He worked in silence. He made decisions that defied their so-called facts. And when the Model T rolled off the line, his critics vanished into dust. Ford trusted his imagination more than their opinions. Ford once told me something I'll never forget. He said, "When I was building my first automobile, I told almost no one. Not because I was ashamed, but because I knew they couldn't see it. And if they couldn't see it, their words would only confuse me." That's wisdom. That's the voice of a man who understands the sacredness of vision. He didn't need their approval. He needed his own clarity. And clarity comes in silence, not in debate. In my years of research, I discovered a pattern. When men first conceived their greatest achievements, they told almost no one. They listened, they received insight, they obeyed their inner voice, and then they built their vision in complete secrecy. Some labored for years, even decades, before their work reached the public. Had they spoken too soon, had they shared with those who weren't ready to receive it, they would have been laughed into retreat. But they held their silence. They protected the seed. And when the harvest finally came, it changed the world. Most people never build anything of value because they give their power away through premature speech. They tell their plan before it's rooted. They seek understanding from people who've never walked by vision. And those people, even with good intentions, inject fear. They load your mind with their worries. They frame your dream in the narrow dimensions of their own failure. And if you're not spiritually fortified, you listen, you bend, you shrink, you delay. The real test isn't whether you can handle rejection, it's whether you can handle silence. Can you move without being seen? Can you build without applause? Can you advance without discussion? That's the test of power. Men of noise often stall. They exchange their strength for storytelling. But the builder walks in the opposite direction. He starts early. He speaks little. He acts repeatedly. And one day, when the world looks for the source of power, they find it in him. Not because he announced it, because he became it. John D. Rockefeller moved with quiet force. He acquired refineries without broadcasting his intent. He built networks behind closed doors. While others spoke of dreams, he was busy building empires. And when he finally spoke, it wasn't theory. It was fact. The structure already stood. The work was already done. His confidence didn't come from praise, it came from progress. That's the difference. Praise is rented, progress is owned. Rockefeller understood something most men never learn. He understood that every word you speak carries psychic weight. Every announcement you make demands energy to sustain it. And if you're spending energy defending your plan, explaining your vision, justifying your choices to people who will never understand them, you have nothing left to actually build the thing. Your reservoir runs dry. Your force scatters, and what could have been a monument becomes a monument to what might have been. So here's what you need to do. Write your definite chief aim. Make it clear. Make it specific. Then speak it aloud only in solitude. Say it with belief. Say it with emotion. Tell it to the mirror. Tell it to your own mind. Your only loyal servant. Tell it to infinite intelligence, not to the crowd. Repeat it every morning and every night until your subconscious accepts it as law. But do not tell the world. The world has not earned the right to hear it. Your vision belongs to you alone until it's done. Guard your inner world the way you'd guard your fortune, because in truth, your mind is the birthplace of your fortune. A single careless word can leak the oil from the lamp of your imagination. And when that oil is gone, so too goes the light by which you build. Silence isn't just caution, it's power. It's the fortress around your idea until that idea has earned its right to exist in the world. When Charles Schwab organized his great business plans, he didn't host press conferences, he simply delivered. I knew Schwab personally. I watched how he operated. When he was orchestrating the formation of the United States Steel Corporation, the largest business deal the world had ever seen at that time, he moved like a ghost. Meetings were held in private, negotiations were conducted behind closed doors. The men involved were sworn to secrecy. And while the business world buzzed with speculation, Schwab simply continued to work. He didn't confirm rumors. He didn't deny accusations. He didn't explain his strategy to newspapers or rivals. He knew that every word spoken was an opportunity for interference, for sabotage, for someone to step in and complicate what was already complex enough. And when the deal finally closed, when the structure was revealed, the world stood in awe. They couldn't argue with it because it was already done. The steel mills were consolidated. The empire was formed. The vision was reality. Schwab didn't need to defend his methods because his results defended themselves. That's the power of working in silence. You remove the opportunity for resistance. You eliminate the chance for others to plant doubt. You protect the work until it's strong enough to stand on its own. Edison didn't gather a crowd to explain the years of silent labor. He turned on the light and the darkness surrendered. But do you know what Edison endured before that moment? Thousands of experiments, thousands of failures, mockery from so-called experts who said electric light was impossible, that gas lamps were the future, that he was wasting his time and money. His own financial backers grew impatient. They questioned him. They demanded explanations. They wanted to know when he would deliver. And Edison, in his wisdom, gave them as little as possible. He didn't describe every failed filament. He didn't justify every setback. He simply said, "I'm getting closer." And then he went back into his laboratory and continued the work. He understood something crucial. Words create expectations. Explanations create obligations. The more he talked about what he was trying to do, the more pressure mounted from the outside. So he stopped talking. He let his notebooks fill with observations. He let his hands stay busy with experiments. He let his mind focus on the problem without the distraction of defending his process to people who couldn't understand it anyway. And when he finally succeeded, when that filament glowed for hours without burning out, he didn't need to explain anything. He invited people to witness. He flipped a switch. The room filled with light. And every doubt, every criticism, every skeptical word ever spoken against him evaporated in that moment. That's what happens when you work in silence and reveal only results. The result becomes irrefutable. No one can argue with light. No one can debate with something that works. Your critics fall silent, not because you convince them with words, but because you prove them wrong with reality. Abraham Lincoln rode alone through the night, unseen by most, unmoved by critics, hated by many, yet completely focused on the work. Lincoln's silence was legendary. In the midst of the Civil War, with the nation tearing itself apart, with politicians demanding action, with newspapers attacking him daily, with his own cabinet doubting his decisions, Lincoln withdrew. He spent hours alone in his office. He wrote draft after draft of speeches that would change history. He thought through problems without needing to voice every consideration to advisors who would only confuse him with their competing opinions. The Emancipation Proclamation wasn't written by committee. It wasn't crafted through public debate. It was conceived in Lincoln's mind, refined in solitude, and revealed only when the time was right. He didn't announce his intention to free the slaves and then spend months defending that intention against critics. He made the decision privately, prepared the document in secret, and then issued it as law. The work was done before anyone could interfere, and because it was done, it stood. Lincoln once said that if he listened to all the advice he received, he would never make a decision. Every advisor had a different opinion. Every politician had a different strategy. Every general had a different demand. If he had tried to satisfy them all, if he had explained his thinking to each one, he would have been paralyzed. So he learned to retreat into silence. He learned to trust his own judgment more than their noise, and history remembers him as one of the greatest leaders who ever lived. Not because he talked the most, but because he decided clearly and acted decisively while others were still debating. These men understood that the seed wasn't designed to boast. The tree doesn't need applause to grow, and you must do the same. Work in silence, finish in power, reveal only what is done. From this moment forward, you obey a new rule: no explanation without execution. If you haven't moved, don't speak. If you haven't built, don't announce. If you haven't trained your subconscious through repetition, you're not yet worthy to describe your dream. You must build first. You must train yourself to enjoy the process more than the praise. Here's what happens when you violate this law. You create what I call spiritual debt. Every time you announce something you haven't done, you create an energetic obligation. Your subconscious knows the truth. It knows you haven't built it yet. And now you've added pressure. Now you're not just building for yourself. You're building to avoid embarrassment. You're building to prove others wrong. You're building to save face. And that kind of motivation is weak. It's fragile. It collapses under the first real obstacle. But when you build in silence, you build for one reason only, because the thing must exist, because you've seen it in your mind and you cannot rest until it exists in reality. That's pure motivation. That's unshakable. No amount of criticism, delay, or setback can stop a man who's building from that place, because he's not building for applause. He's building because he must. Let your silence become your weapon. Let it become your shelter. Let it become your prayer. For in the silence you will hear what the noise of men cannot offer, the voice of your own destiny, speaking softly but clearly. Build it. Keep going. Don't stop. And tell no one until it's done. I want you to understand something about the subconscious mind. It's always listening. It's always recording every word you speak, every thought you think, every emotion you feel. It's all being written into the fabric of your being. And the subconscious doesn't judge. It doesn't question. It simply accepts and executes. So when you speak your vision with faith, with repetition, with emotion, the subconscious says, yes, this is law. I will move heaven and earth to make this real. But when you speak doubt, when you repeat the criticisms of others, when you explain why something might not work, the subconscious says, yes, this is law too. I will create obstacles that match your expectation. This is why the company you keep matters. This is why the voices you allow into your inner circle matter. Not everyone deserves to hear your vision. Not everyone has earned the right to know what you're building. Some people are unconscious. They don't mean harm, but they operate from fear, from limitation, from the narrow confines of their own experience. And when you expose your dream to their unconsciousness, you risk contamination. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. A man conceives a brilliant idea. It's clear, it's powerful, it burns in his chest like sacred fire. But then he makes a mistake. He shares it with the wrong person. Maybe it's a family member who's never taken a risk. Maybe it's a friend who's comfortable in mediocrity. Maybe it's a coworker who resents ambition. And that person, without malice, speaks their doubt. They say, that sounds hard. Or, are you sure you're ready for that? Or, what if it doesn't work? And those words, spoken in a moment, plant seeds of uncertainty that take root in the subconscious. The man begins to waver. The vision begins to blur. And what could have been a masterpiece becomes another abandoned dream. So you must be ruthless in your protection of the seed. You must guard your vision like a mother guards her child. You must become selective, discerning, almost paranoid about who gets to hear what you're building. This isn't arrogance. This is survival. This is the difference between those who finish and those who fold. When the work is complete, when the structure stands, when the fruit is ripe, step back and let the world see. Not with words, but with triumph. The completed work needs no defense. It will explain itself. It will teach. It will shine. It will speak. That is the law the great builders obeyed. And that is the law you must follow if you want your vision to survive. Now let me tell you about the mastermind principle and how it relates to sacred silence. The mastermind is a group of individuals who coordinate in a spirit of harmony for the attainment of a definite purpose. But notice what I didn't say. I didn't say you announce your purpose to everyone. I said you coordinate with specific individuals. There's a massive difference. Your mastermind alliance should be small, carefully chosen, and bound by mutual respect and confidentiality. These are the only people who should know the details of what you're building. Everyone else gets silence. Everyone else gets a smile and a nod. Everyone else gets nothing until the work is done, because the mastermind operates on a different frequency. These individuals understand vision. They've built things themselves. They know that dreams are fragile in the early stages. They know how to protect the seed while helping it grow. The average person doesn't understand this. The average person thinks every idea should be shared, debated, voted on by committee. But greatness doesn't work that way. Greatness is conceived in solitude and refined in sacred partnership. That's it. So let the others talk. Let them chase attention. Let them drown in explanation. You will rise in silence. You will move in certainty. You will strike in precision. And when the moment is right, you will reveal not your intention, but your transformation. Not your plan, but your proof. Not your dream, but your dominion. because you understood what most never will. The seed must be protected while it's soft. Only when the roots are deep, only when the foundation is set, only when the structure stands on its own, only then may you reveal. There's another reason silence is sacred. It protects you from the thief of comparison. When you announce your plans, you open yourself up to comparison. Others will measure your dream against theirs. They'll measure your timeline against someone else's success. They'll measure your starting point against someone else's finish line. And comparison is a killer. It will rob you of joy, of momentum, of faith, because there will always be someone ahead of you. There will always be someone who started earlier, who has more resources, who seems to be moving faster. But when you work in silence, you eliminate comparison. You're no longer racing against anyone but yourself. You're no longer worried about what others think of your progress. You're simply focused on the next step, the next decision, the next action. And that singular focus is where power lives. That's where breakthroughs happen. That's where ordinary men become extraordinary. I've watched this principle play out in industry after industry. The men who announce early rarely finish strong. They get distracted by the reactions. They adjust their plans based on feedback that wasn't asked for and isn't helpful. They lose their North Star because they're trying to satisfy too many voices. But the men who work in silence, they finish, they launch, they deliver. And when they do, the world has no choice but to pay attention. Speak this aloud right now. Say it until it burns into your mind. I keep silent until my work is law. I do not explain. I execute. I speak my vision only to my inner world. I act first. I speak last. I let my work reveal my law. You know, that's your new identity. That's your sacred command. And if you obey it, everything changes. Your energy stops leaking into empty conversations. Your power multiplies. Your belief deepens. And your results become undeniable. The world is not moved by talkers. It is moved by doers. So from this day forward, do not announce, execute, do not explain, build, do not seek permission, claim your power. Let the world discover what you became when you told no one. Let them marvel, let them wonder. And when they ask where you came from, you'll know the answer. I came from silence. I came from the inner chamber of faith. I came from a place where no man could interfere. I came from the sacred fire of daily decision, and now I arrive completed. Let me give you a practical exercise. Starting tomorrow morning, I want you to establish what I call the sacred hour. This is 1 hour, either at dawn or just before sleep, where you speak to no one but yourself and infinite intelligence. During this hour, you read your definite chief aim aloud. You visualize it as if it's already accomplished. You feel the emotion of victory. You instruct your subconscious with clarity and faith, and you do this in complete privacy. No phone, no distractions, no audience. Just you and the invisible forces that shape reality. Do this every single day for 30 days. Don't tell anyone you're doing it. Don't post about it. Don't explain it. Just do it and watch what happens. You'll notice your confidence rising without external validation. You'll notice opportunities appearing that weren't there before. You'll notice your actions aligning with your vision in ways that seem almost magical. But it's not magic, it's law. It's the law of autosuggestion combined with the law of sacred silence. And when these two forces work together, they become unstoppable. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but what if I need advice? What if I need help? Shouldn't I ask for input? And my answer is this: yes, seek counsel, but seek it wisely. Seek it from those who have walked the path you're walking. Seek it from those who have built what you're trying to build. Do not seek counsel from the comfortable, the fearful, or the inexperienced. Their advice will reflect their limitations, not your potential. And when you do seek counsel, be strategic. Don't reveal everything. Reveal only what's necessary to get the specific guidance you need. Keep the core of your vision protected. Think of it like a military operation. The general doesn't reveal the entire battle plan to every soldier. He reveals only what each person needs to know to play their part. You must operate the same way. Your vision is your battle plan, and most people don't need to know the details. There's something else I want you to understand about silence. It builds a certain kind of power that words can never build. It builds presence. When you stop talking about what you're going to do and you start simply doing it, people sense something different about you. They can't quite name it, but they feel it. You become magnetic. You become mysterious. You become someone worth watching. Because while everyone else is broadcasting their intentions, you're quietly becoming dangerous. You're quietly becoming capable. You're quietly becoming the person who delivers while others are still deliberating. I've seen this transformation happen in men who finally grasp this principle. They walk differently. They carry themselves with a quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. When someone asks them what they're working on, they smile slightly and say, "I'll show you when it's ready." And that simple response creates more intrigue, more respect, more authority than 1,000 words of explanation ever could, because that response signals something profound. This is a person who knows where they're going and doesn't need your permission to get there. This presence, this quiet power, is what separates leaders from followers. Leaders don't need to announce themselves. Their results announce them, their character announces them, their consistency announces them. When a true leader walks into a room, you feel it, not because he's loud, but because he's certain, and that certainty was forged in silence, in solitude, in the sacred space where vision becomes conviction. Think about the last time you met someone truly powerful. I don't mean someone with a title or wealth necessarily. I mean someone who had real power, the kind that comes from within. Did they talk incessantly about themselves? Did they broadcast their plans? Did they seek your approval? No, they asked questions, they listened, they observed, and when they spoke, their words carried weight because they weren't spoken carelessly. Every sentence had purpose, every commitment was kept. They had learned that words are currency, and the wise man doesn't spend his currency on things that produce no return. The talker dilutes his presence by scattering his energy across too many ears. The builder concentrates his presence by channeling all his energy into the work. And over time, that concentrated energy becomes palpable. People feel it. They're drawn to it. They want to be near it because it's so rare in a world full of noise. I want you to think about the greatest moments in history, the moments that changed everything: the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the invention of the telephone, the first flight at Kitty Hawk, the development of the assembly line. Every single one of these moments was preceded by years of silent work, years when the world didn't know, years when critics doubted, years when the builders themselves faced moments of uncertainty. But they kept going. They kept building. They kept believing. And when the moment of revelation finally came, it was undeniable. Consider Alexander Graham Bell. He spent years in a cramped workshop experimenting with sound transmission. His father-in-law funded the work, but even he grew impatient. Friends questioned whether Bell was wasting his life on an impossible dream. But Bell didn't organize public demonstrations of his failures. He didn't write articles about his theories before they were proven. He worked morning, noon, and night in relative obscurity. And when he finally transmitted that first sentence, "Mr. Watson, come here, I want to see you," the world changed instantly. Communication would never be the same, but the breakthrough came only because he protected the work during its vulnerable stages. Or think about the Wright brothers. They weren't the only ones trying to achieve powered flight. Samuel Langley, backed by the Smithsonian Institution and the U.S. War Department, was attempting the same feat with far more money and public attention. Langley made grand announcements. He invited the press to his test flights, and he failed spectacularly, publicly, repeatedly. His work became a joke. Meanwhile, in a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, two brothers worked in silence. They didn't seek publicity. They didn't make promises. They simply tested, adjusted, failed, learned, and tried again. And on a cold December morning in Kitty Hawk, they achieved what Langley, with all his resources and announcements, could not. They flew. The difference wasn't intelligence or funding. The difference was silence. The Wright brothers protected their work from premature exposure. They didn't let public opinion pressure them into rushing it. They didn't let critics discourage them. They worked at the pace the work demanded, not the pace others expected. And because of that patience, because of that sacred silence, they succeeded where better funded, more celebrated efforts failed. That's the power of sacred silence. It gives your work time to mature, time to strengthen, time to become so solid that no criticism can shake it. When you reveal too early, your work is vulnerable, it's unfinished, it's exposed. Critics can poke holes in it because the holes haven't been filled yet. Doubters can question it because you're still questioning it yourself. But when you wait until it's complete, until it's tested, until it's proven, you reveal something that cannot be argued with. You reveal something that demands respect. And here's what else happens in that silence. You develop an immunity to judgment. When you're building in private, you're not constantly checking how others perceive you. You're not adjusting your course based on every opinion. You're not defending your decisions to people who have no stake in your success. You become sovereign. You become self-directed. You become the kind of person who finishes things while others are still talking about starting. This immunity to judgment is perhaps the most valuable asset a person can develop. Most people live their entire lives imprisoned by the question, what will others think? They choose careers based on what will impress others. They chase goals that society values rather than goals that fulfill them. They live according to someone else's blueprint. But the person who has learned sacred silence breaks free from that prison. They stop performing for an audience. They start building for legacy. And so I'm asking you now, right now, to make a decision. Decide that from this moment forward, you will honor the law of sacred silence. Decide that you will protect your vision like you protect your life. Decide that you will speak to your subconscious with thunder and repetition, but you will not speak to the world until the work is complete. This decision, made right now with emotion and conviction, will change the trajectory of everything you build from here forward. This isn't a casual commitment. This is a vow. This is you drawing a line in the sand of your own consciousness and saying, from this day forward, I operate differently. I no longer need applause during the process. I no longer seek validation from those who haven't earned the right to judge. I no longer elude my power by broadcasting my intentions. I'm a builder now, not a broadcaster. And builders work in silence until the structure stands. And write this down. Put it somewhere you'll see it every day. I reveal only what is complete. I protect my vision. I execute in silence. I speak through results. Let this become your creed. Let this become the filter through which every conversation passes. Before you share anything about what you're building, ask yourself, is this complete? If the answer is no, keep it to yourself. If the answer is yes, let the work speak. Make this filter automatic. Train yourself to pause before you speak about your plans. In that pause, ask, why do I want to share this? Am I seeking clarity or am I seeking praise? Will speaking about this strengthen my resolve or weaken it? Is this person someone who builds or someone who doubts? These questions will save you from countless mistakes. They'll protect your energy. They'll keep your vision pure. There's a reason the greatest achievers in history were also the most private. They understood that power grows in the dark. Like a seed beneath the soil, your vision needs darkness, silence, and protection to develop roots strong enough to break through into the light. If you dig up a seed every day to check its progress, it will never grow. If you expose it to harsh weather before it's ready, it will die. The same is true for your dreams. But there's more to this metaphor. In the darkness beneath the soil, something miraculous happens. The seed doesn't just sit there waiting. It's working. It's breaking down its outer shell. It's converting stored energy into growth. It's sending roots down and shoots up simultaneously. All of this happens invisible to the eye. And if you could somehow observe this process, you'd see that the most crucial stage of growth happens when no one is watching. The foundation is built in secret. The strength is developed in hiding. And only when that foundation is unshakable does the plant break through the surface. Your work follows the same pattern. The most critical stage of any endeavor is the beginning, when the idea is still fragile, when your faith is still developing, when the path isn't completely clear. This is when silence is most essential. This is when exposure to criticism could kill the entire project. You must protect the work during this vulnerable stage the way a mother protects a newborn child, and no one gets to hold the baby until it's strong enough. No one gets to question your methods until results prove they work. Give your vision the gift of time. Give it the gift of silence. Give it the gift of your unwavering faith, spoken only in the inner chamber of your mind. And when the time is right, when the structure is unshakable, when the proof is undeniable, then you step back and let the world witness what you built when no one was watching. That moment of revelation, that unveiling, will be worth every day of silence you endured, because you won't be asking for belief. You'll be presenting proof. You won't be defending potential. You'll be demonstrating reality. You won't be explaining what it could be. You'll be showing what it is. And in that moment, every person who doubted you, every voice that questioned you, every critic who dismissed you will fall silent, not because you argued them into submission, but because your results rendered their opinions irrelevant. This is the path. This is the law. This is how ordinary men become legends, not through announcement, but through accomplishment, not through explanation, but through execution, not through talk, but through transformation. And it all begins with the sacred decision to keep your mouth closed and your hands moving until the work is done. That decision requires courage. It requires you to resist the temptation of premature recognition. It requires you to be comfortable with people thinking you're not doing anything significant when you're actually building your masterpiece. It requires you to trust the process more than you trust public opinion. It requires you to believe in your vision so deeply that you don't need anyone else to believe in it yet. Most men cannot make this decision. They're too addicted to attention. They're too dependent on external validation. They need constant reassurance that they're on the right path. And because they need these things, they never develop the internal strength required for greatness. They remain forever dependent on the approval of others. They never taste the freedom that comes from self-directed purpose. But you're not most men. You're watching this video right now because something in you recognizes the truth of what I'm saying. Something in you knows that you've been leaking power through unnecessary speech. Something in you is ready to change. And that readiness is the beginning of transformation. That's your assignment. That's your calling. That's your destiny. If you dare to claim it now. Make the vow now. Commit to sacred silence now. Not tomorrow, not next week. Now. Because every moment you delay is another moment your vision remains exposed to forces that would destroy it. Every conversation you have about unfinished work is another leak in your reservoir of power. Stop the leak. Seal your lips. Open your hands and get to work in the glorious, powerful, life-changing silence where all great things are born.